أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, Eid Mubarak to all of you. May Allah bless all of us and bless all of you, inshallah, and your families on the start and the agaz of the Imam of Imam Zamana, inshallah. May Allah hasten his reappearance and may we stand beside him when he arrives, inshallah. Our discussion, workshop / Khamsa has reached its fourth night. Up until now we've talked about different topics, and tonight, as was marketed or advertised, we'll look at the Islamic family structure, inshallah. And before I do that, it's important that we all realize the importance of the family structure, why it is such a highly recommended institution inside of Islam. Allah refers to it as one of His signs in the Quran. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. That from His signs that He created for you and from you, azwaj, pairs, so you may find sukoon inside of each other. Meaning He starts off by saying it's one of my signs. This whole idea of marriage and family is such a respected school inside of the Deen of Islam, to the point where even, let's say, two Hindu individuals who are married convert to Islam and they come into Islam as a married couple, nowhere in our fiqh is the idea of them reciting the nikah all over again. Meaning Islam even recognizes whatever their marriage was, they come in as a union, they're accepted as a union as well. So, obviously in my counseling and my travel, one of the biggest issues we have is that our families right now are going through a lot. Inshallah. Yes, you guys with me? Excellent. So as I like to do always, there is a reference of a book here. The book is called Lantern of the Path. Okay, Misbahul Sharia. Misbah al-Sharia is a book, it's online, available in a very good translation, a very thin book, attributed to Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. And the backstory of this book is that there was an individual by the name of Fudail ibn Ayan. Fudail ibn Ayan, his profession before meeting Imam Sadiq was that he was a thief, a professional thief. People would actually hire him to steal things that they want. And the story says very quickly that he was on the roof of the house about to steal from the house when the individual in that house was reading the Quran. And he comes across the verse from Surah Hadid, ayat number 16, where the verse now talks about the idea that when will that time come? أَلَمْ يَعْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. When will that time come, or when will it be about time where the people now begin to have khushu in their heart for Allah? I mean, what will it take for you to begin now to understand God? He climbs down from the roof and he seeks out Imam Sadiq and begs him to be his teacher. And that one half of that one verse was enough to spark him. The classes between him and Imam Sadiq were compiled in a book called Lantern of the Path. Okay? So inside of this book, the very first discussion that we have is on ubudiyah, is on subservience to Allah, how to be a true abd of Allah. And there Imam Sadiq, as I often like to mention, he talks about the fact that the idea of ubudiyah Ubudiyah has 4 different relationships to it. Sometimes we think that as long as me and Allah are okay, doesn't matter how I am with everybody else. So we've seen individuals who, mashallah, are very pious in their individual worship, front lines in salats, never miss a fast, multiple hajj. But when you go to their home and you talk to their wife and their child, they'll say that he is a zalim, Malana. And so that's the person who doesn't quite understand the idea of ubudiyah. Our sixth Imam says there are 4 different relationships if you want to tread the path of ubudiyah. Number 1 is you and Allah, of course. What is that like? Number 2 is you and this world. Number 3 is you and your deeds, your a'mal. Number 4 is you and others. Meaning what? The makhluk. Okay? He then goes on to describe 7 different principles for every single relationship. It's a lengthy discussion. The concern for us today is number 4. I'm going to use others to also mean what? Family. What are those 7 principles that should exist in a family unit? That's our talk today. A successful family has 7 principles that you'll find in their household. Be it between husband and wife, between parent and child, between siblings, whatever the case may be, a cohesive unit, a cohesive family is one that has these 7 principles. Okay? We'll go through one by one, and as promised, I'll be done by 9:02, inshallah. If I start at 8:02, I end at 9:02. Before that, I want all of you to understand the importance of the family unit. Yes?
You put these 4 things, like you said, you and the world, and then you said you and the other.
Yes. What do you mean?
World and others. World means others.
No, no. What I mean by world is this dunya. How do you see this dunya? Do you see this dunya as fani or baqi or the end all or the be all, or do you see the dunya as something that is a transition or the maqsad or the wasila? I don't mean the ahl dunya, I mean the dunya itself. Great question. Okay. So far, alhamdulillah, you guys have been really good with me. So have the kids, but I don't want the youth today, I'm sorry guys, on the walls. Come off the walls for me, please. Come join me from the back over here, inshallah, please. Yeah, perfect, sorry. I know that it's very comfortable, but that's okay. There's still 20 more years until you get the walls. After that, you can sit wherever you want, I promise. At that age, when I was that age and I sat against the wall, not one eyes, I had 5 different people looking at me and saying, get off the wall, okay? Off the diva. Thank you. Now, before that, I want to share with you one hadith. Because this is a very, very important topic. I cannot stress enough that a lot of the stress that exists inside of ourselves, anxiety and pressure and depression, comes from the family unit, the 4 walls. A lot of our sisters right now are quietly suffering inside of our homes, and we have no outlet to talk about this stuff. Okay? There's a hadith by our Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Prophet says there are 2 sets of people in this hadith. How many sets? 2. Excellent. The Ahle Arv, the people of earth, let's say, or people of the land. And there's Ahle Sama, the people of the skies. Okay? So these are the people who are on the ground. For some reason they're green. Okay, we take our Al-Mahdi youth to camp every single year, as many of you know. A few of our youth here from Milton actually come and join us. It's a wonderful time every single year. We've been doing it for about 20, 25 years. 4 hours north from here, 80 to 85 kids, 3 or 4 ulama, 5 days, 4 nights. And the best part of the day for all of our campers is the night campfire. That's the highlight of the day. They love it. And the reason why they love it, partly because for some reason they like fire, which is, I don't know why they like fire. But the idea also is that they don't quite get the night sky here that they do up north. So sometimes in between my talks with them, I tell them stop and look up. When they look up, they see what? They see stars. Stars that you've never seen before. You can't find stars like that in the city. You have to go a little bit north to find the stars. Hadith says, the Prophet says, the Ahle Ard, the people of the land, they look up to the sky and their eyes gravitate towards those stars that are the brightest. Right? When you look up to the sky, you think, okay, that's bright, that's really bright. Your eyes gravitate by themselves towards the brightest stars. He says the people of the sama, of the skies, are no different. They're now where? In the sky. And they're looking where? They're looking now down. Looking down where? Looking down on our homes. And just like the people of the earth gravitate towards the brightest of stars, the people of the sky gravitate towards the brightest of homes. And the Prophet says the brightest of homes are those where there is love, there is compassion, there is worship of Allah, there is respect, there is communication, there is the Quran, there is dhikr of Ali Muhammad. All these things are what? Are bright homes. Bright homes. They're glowing to those who are the Ahl Sama. Be it the people who are right now in the skies, be it the angels, whatever the case may be. So his point, the Prophet, is that do your best to illuminate your homes just like the stars are illuminated inside the night sky. Now how do we do that as a question? That's our talk tonight. Seven principles. The first principle. Let's go a little red. 7 principles. Is that okay? Well, you can see that? Okay. Again, 7 principles as given in Misbah al-Sharia by Imam Sadiq. The first principle is the idea of forbearance. One of the quickest ways that a family unit can get really strong, and when I say family unit, I mean the 4 of you, the 5 of you, the 3 of you, however many you have, you, your spouse, and your children, is to go through a difficulty together. Everybody here has a story. Everybody here has gone through their fair share of tragedy. Everybody here has gone through their struggles as a family unit. And it's not the struggle that's the kamal, it's the output of that struggle in the family that's the kamal. There are struggles and tragedies and hardships that destroy families. There are those hardships that strengthen families. There are things that couples go through where they now end up loving each other more. There are things that couples go through that drive a wedge between both of them. Okay. Forbearance is not like sabr in Islam. Sabr is one thing, hilm is another. Hilm is what forbearance is. Patience is the idea that sabr is the idea that you get through your hardship, but there's still a bitter taste in your mouth. You're still not happy with what's going on. That patience is not mixed with the idea of you being radhi with Allah. You understand the difference? So fine, I'm getting through it, I'm being patient, but I'm not happy about it. It sucks, it's horrible. Why should I have to go through this? Forbearance is the opposite. That I'll go through the same tragedy, but how can I find my strength in that hardship? How can I find my pleasure or my bridge back to God through this hardship? Okay, that's called hilm. If you look at Imam Sajjad alayhi salatu wasalam, in the courtyard of Yazid, the very famous khutbah that he delivered, that historic khutbah that he delivered, that really requires an entire ashar to discuss. If you look at his khutbah and Bibi Zainab's khutbah, they were perfectly aligned together. And together they were able to what? Destroy Yazid from within. Bibi Zainab's khutbah, she was precisely all about unveiling Yazid's reality to the people of Sham. Up until now, they believed this guy was the Khalifa, the Naib of the Holy Prophet. They actually believed him to be the Ahlul Bayt, because that's what they were told by Muawiyah, and of course by the son. She came and said that this is what your reality is, right to his face. Imam Sajjad didn't mention Yazid at all. Instead, what he did, he talked about who the Ahlul Bayt truly are. So unveiling Yazid and introducing the true Ahlul Bayt. Together, those two khutbahs destroyed Yazid from within. Took 2 years, but it destroyed him. The very first thing Imam Sajjad says that we, the Ahlul Bayt, are known by 6 qualities. And the first thing he says is what? Hilm. We are forbearance. We get through every tragedy, we become stronger after that tragedy. I cannot tell you how many couples I go and I talk to where the husband, let's say, loses his job. And instead of the wife saying, look, we'll get through it, don't worry about it, she sits there and she puts salt on his wounds. And says, I knew it, you're good for nothing, my mom was right, I shouldn't have married you, you're a loser, you're uneducated, blah, blah, blah. Now what's going to happen? Our kids are in bad school, we have our mortgage payments, now I have to work and you stay home. And he already feels like he's been emasculated. Now on top of that, his wife, where she really should stand beside him, says, great. And right away, there's a wedge between the wife and the husband. Or the wife decides that, you know what, for my own sanity, I need to go back to work. Before I married you, I was in this corporate job. I had children, I sacrificed that, I stayed at home, I raised my kids, but now for my own sanity, I need to go back to work. Even if 15 hours a week, it doesn't matter. Instead of us husbands saying, look, I'm going to support you in doing that, the same way you supported me in doing my work, we say what? We tell her, look, your job is at home. Raise the kids, cook the meals, I will handle the bills. It's not about money sometimes. Sometimes we don't understand that this generation, especially those of us who are a little bit in younger couples. So if a lot of my elders, if you have daughter-in-laws, or if your sons are married to girls from here or from back home, they need extra fulfillment beyond the children. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. There's some restlessness going on. Yes, go ahead.
Toyota Camry ASKF 231 is the headlights on it. Please just came over there.
Hold the point here now, Jibbi, right? He feels bad already as it is. It's all right. That's okay. Okay. Please come back. Don't drive home. Please. Thank you. Yeah, inshallah. Thank you. You never know. Right? I'm out of here. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. It should be that the Quran says, لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهِ. You should find sukoon between you and your spouse. Serenity, comfort. The one thing that we're all dying for in this world, are moments of that breeze on a very hot day, right? The moments where we feel good. We should not be avoiding home, we should be running towards our home, right? And after a very tough day, after a very, anxious, stress-filled day, it's our spouse, doesn't matter husband or wife, that should calm ourselves down. If you look at the role of Bibi Khadija and this entire mission of the deen, one of it, besides the wealth, it's not just about money for her. She's been reduced to somebody who gave a blank check to the deen. She gave a lot more to the deen. She was there beside the Prophet when nobody else was. In terms of just moral support. They would throw feces at that man. They would throw garbage at that man. They would accuse him of things. They would use vulgar language. He would come home after a very difficult day, and the first person now to make him forget about all that was his wife, Bibi Khadija. And no one else did. No other wife did. He talked about her years after her passing. Otherwise, got annoyed. You keep bringing up that old woman, old woman, old woman. He would blast that wife. How dare you talk about my Khadija like that? And it wasn't, wallahi, it wasn't a blank check. It was the fact that when I needed somebody the most, she was there for me. That's what I want all of us to be for our spouses. When there are moments that that person needs us the most, we are there for them. If you notice that your wife or your husband now have changed their behavior, all of a sudden now they're quiet, they're distracted, they've lost their appetite, they're in their room all day, something is wrong or off, approach the spouse. Especially my elders. I know it's a little bit different for all of you growing up. You never saw it in your homes, but this is a different era that we live in now. Right? Forbearance between a couple and a family is that idea that you now use that hardship, that struggle, that tragedy to become a stronger unit. Not for you to fall apart into pieces. If your daughter comes to you and says, I want to marry this guy, Dad, and it's not someone that you want her to marry, or your son comes and, you get a phone call from the police station, or from the principal, or he's found somewhere at 3 a.m., let's say, for example, and you're devastated, at that moment, it is important that all of you come together as one unit and handle this issue. Not play the blame game. That he is this way because he's your ladla, it's your fault. Right? You fed him garam rotis, and you never asked him to do anything, and every time I came for strictness, you would come and say, don't worry, Baba's rasa lohem, Baba's rasa yehen. No. United front. Right? The things that grow the wedge between families is when you are dealing with hardships. And it's not, at that moment, it's not 2 or 3 separate people dealing with that hardship, it affects everybody. Okay? The first one is hilm. To ensure that what? We find our strength through our hardships. Our hardships. Because the reality is, I don't mean to be depressing, but the hardships will continue to come and continue to come. And my elders can attest to this. It's a lot easier when you have a supportive spouse beside you. Okay? So if it's the case that your wife has sacrificed and sacrificed and sacrificed, and now she requires you now to sacrifice and her to kind of push her career ahead, then be that husband that sacrifices that. Okay? Yes? Great. Sorry?
I said clear as mud.
Clear as mud. Excellent. Number 2. Forgiveness. Our 6th Imam says the second most important principle of a strong family unit is forgiveness. You might think it's simple enough. You'd be surprised how we are very unforgiving towards the mistakes of others. How we become so masoom so quickly when someone else makes a fault, especially our own spouse. Right? And this discussion, is completely related to the discussion on God's attributes and our worship. A lot of times our youth ask us, how do I know that my ibadat is working? How do I know that what I'm doing is working? It's a natural question, right? Now you can sit there and say, look, you're in charge of the farida, he's in charge of the natija. Right? You are in charge of what is, wajib on you. Let him do his job, meaning God. Don't worry about acceptance or not. It's a natural question, right? I want to know if I'm going to stop eating roti and chawal, let's say, will the scale move or not? I want to know if I'm doing this one habit, is there an effect or not? And our worship is no different, right? So part of the thing that ulama talk about is that one sure sign that a lot of our worship is working is that we begin to reflect the signs and the attributes of Allah inside of us. Oh, it's a crucial discussion. Meaning what? If Allah is forgiving, we also become forgiving. If Allah, for example, hides the faults of others, we also hide the faults of others. If Allah is somebody who supports those who are oppressed, we also support those who are oppressed. And the more that we reflect Allah's attributes, the more our worship is working. To a certain degree, of course. Right? Like, if the example given is the sun to the ray of the sun. Correct? The ray of the sun, a perfect ray of sun has heat and has light. Why? Because it reflects the sun itself. But where is the heat of the ray and where is the heat of the sun? Two different things. Okay? The aim and the oj and the extreme level of hypocrisy is that we beg Allah for His forgiveness for our own faults, but we are not forgiven for those who are at fault with us. So I'm begging Allah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. Meanwhile, the person beside me is saying to me, look, please forgive me, please forgive me. Allah forgive me, I'll never forgive you. Allah forgive me, I'll never forgive you. Allah said, look, show me your forgiveness and I'll show you my forgiveness. Right? You show me a soft heart towards the faults of others, I'll look past your faults as well. But it can't be that you're begging Allah to give me that same attribute that you're denying somebody else. Okay? And that only happens when we have a what? A lack of forgiveness in a family comes from a lack of awareness in our own faults. The moment that we're aware of our faults, we become compassionate towards the faults of others. The moment that we accept the fact that I am a flawed being, I can accept the flaws of the wife or the husband in front of me. If I think that I'm ma'asum and I am the greatest and I am the best, then I will not forgive the person in front of me. If I'm tolerant towards my own faults, I'm tolerant towards her faults or his faults. Remember, Allah's forgiveness is not like ours. I've been given this example several times. Hadith says that Allah forgives us to the point where the sin never occurred. He forgives us to the point where the sin never occurred. What's the example I gave in a few lectures this year and last year was my 4-year-old Hassan likes to draw. Right? So he comes to me and says, Baba, I want a clean, fresh piece of paper. So I give him from our recycled stack. And that's no good for him. He gets the paper, he looks behind it. There's something printed on it, he says, no, I don't want this paper. I want clean on both sides. I know where his eyes are. His eyes are on my printer. In that printer tray, there's crisp white paper. Baba, I want the printer paper. I go, fine, here's the printer paper, here's a pencil. He takes a piece of paper and he draws a ball this big in the corner of the paper. You see that? And then he says, Baba, I want another piece of paper. I'm like, look, there's all this paper here. Right? I said, you're not going to get a brand new paper unless you fill up all this paper. He says, no, I want a brand new paper. Zip, 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 zip. 4 years old. Fighting me, fighting me, fighting me. So what do? I grab the paper, I go inside the room, I make sure he doesn't see me, I grab an eraser. Right? I'm sitting there rubbing. And just like, you know, if you can see a little bit of the remnant here, like that, for example, I give him the paper back. And of course he examines it. Of course he examines it. And I'm erasing like it is like the biggest mission of my life. I'm blowing the shavings, I'm removing the crease, I'm doing all that. I go, here's a brand new piece of paper. And no matter how hard I try to erase it, there's still something that, look, at one moment there was a ball here. He says, no, Baba. I don't want this. This is the same paper that you just gave me 5 minutes ago. Nice try. What does he want? He wants the paper from the, tell me, the printer. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives us, the paper goes back to where? The paper from the printer. It's as if the ball was never written on the paper to begin with. That's how God forgives us. But we don't forgive each other like that, unfortunately. We forgive, and then we download it in our head. We put in a folder. Iqbal Zahid, Falan date, 2019. This is where he messed up with me. I download the file. I put it in my folder. I put it all in the back of my drive. Then when he messes up again, I download that file. I go, Iqbal, this is strike 2 now for you. Strike 1 was way back in 2019. That's not how God works. The key to a very successful family is forgiveness. Allah says himself, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. I place between you two, you and your spouse, mawadda and rahmah. Mawadda, I'll explain inshallah 35 times, and rahmah, forgiveness and compassion. Look over the faults of others. Forgive them. Okay? Now, I'm not saying to become a doormat where they keep wronging you, keep forgiving, wronging you, keep forgiving. No. But I am saying that not to be hard-hearted when it comes to the faults of others. Especially as men, we have to really show a high level of compassion when it comes to our wives. Because they go through a lot more things that we go through. We have to be more understanding of that. Please stop me if any questions. You guys are really quiet tonight. I don't like it. Forbearance, forgiveness. The third one is humility. Humility. Oh, this is such a huge discussion. So, in humility, please listen very carefully. I'm bound to upset a lot of you in this room tonight. I don't want to, but sometimes I have to. We are, as husbands and fathers in the house, we are the wali. Correct? Walayat is ours. There's no debate, there's no dispute. Our sisters have to accept that. Okay? Reasons that are beyond our discussion tonight. Okay? If there is one car and one steering wheel, we're the ones that are steering the car. Okay? We are the leaders of the household. And sometimes I think that we think that wilayat gives me the right to govern how I want in my household. So I have a certain kursi and a certain seat in my house. Right? I do ishara and my jai comes. I do ishara and my remote comes. I have my phone charged. I have this charged. Right? I come home after a long day at work and I start commanding and there's this, there's that, ye lekya, wo lekya. Yes sir, huzur, yes. Why? I'm the wali of the house. Does it happen? Happens. Oh, what are you?
Yeah, North America.
No, North America. Yeah. Yeah, itne mazloom aap log bante hain, mashallah. Yes. Amazing. Maybe not. Maybe I know things are changing, but there are still families and husbands out there, I'm sorry, that they truly rule with an iron fist. Because that's what they think Islam wants them to do. That unless I am sakht and hard with my family, Maulana, they won't listen to anything I say. The reality is that true wilayat belongs to Allah, number one. Innama waliyakum Allah. Your wali is only Allah. He chooses to give that wilayah to whoever He pleases. He gave that to you. If that's the case, why not adopt the sirat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when it comes to how He leads us? If we're going to accept the wilayah from Allah, let's accept everything from Allah as well. What we don't understand as husbands sometimes, it's very, very hard to swallow, is that yes, we're given wilayah, but we're given a huge responsibility also. And that responsibility is, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu qu anfusikum wa ahlikum nara. Protect yourself and your family from the fire, from the nar. Not that fire only. There's fires in this world also to protect your family from. And that job is exclusively the job of us, the husbands and the fathers. We are responsible to lead our families to heaven. We are responsible to wake up our family for Fajr, to ensure that my kid is in madrasa, to make sure that my kids know the Quran, to make sure that I give them the proper dini ta'aleem inside the house and the proper environment so they can lead a successful, pious life. Not my wife, I'm sorry. Everything is not to be dumped on her. You find a Skype teacher, you make sure that homework is done, you talk to this teacher, you pay these fees. That's all that I see nowadays. We think that I do my 9 to 5 and khalas, I'm done. She does everything else. Meanwhile, she's caving in with the pressure. She wasn't built to handle all these things. That's not how her fitbit works. That's how our fitbit works. Wilayat does not mean that I sit there like a king and I get served grapes every half an hour. Does not. It means that I have to work and struggle to lead my family to Jannah. Look, I'll give you a very simple example, right? Inshallah, if you don't, please, I ask my fathers, you should make it a point to lead Jamaat prayer inside your home. Number one. Okay, don't tell me, oh, I have to be a Ma'soom and, the 15th Ma'soom. No, you don't. You don't. Sometimes as Shias, we go really far into the Adalat, to the point where nobody but Imam Malik can lead Jamaat. And yes, sometimes our students go all the way here where everyone can lead Jamaat, mashallah. We have to find a middle ground, okay? But we should, as fathers and husbands in the audience, at least on the weekend, Zohar, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, lead one Jamaat. And look at the Jamaat picture. This is you, this is the man. This is the woman. These are the kids. Okay, that's a rooftop view of how a Jamaat should look like, correct? You are facing Qibla, slightly beside you is your wife, behind both you are the kids. Beautiful picture of how the wilayah should be inside of your home. You're not meant to your wife is not meant to serve you guys, or serve us, right? I mean, if you look at the way that Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, sorry, 1 second. The way that Imam Ali describes Sayyidah Fatimah, I mention this all the time in weddings. When the Prophet is asking Imam Ali, how did you find my daughter? Second or third day after the wedding, he says to the Holy Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, I found the ultimate hamsafar, travel companion on the journey towards Allah and Fatimah. If I'm driving the car towards Allah, and if anyone is worthy of sitting beside me in that passenger seat, it's Fatimah al-Zahra. Do we see that? No, we don't. At least I don't think we do. It has to be the idea of the hamsafar, the travel companion. Both of you now do what? You both lead the kids towards Jannah. But you are ultimately driving the car. Embrace your wilayat, yes, but adopt the sirat of Allah. Allah says, you want me to lead you? No problem. Begin everything in my rahmaniyat and my rahimiyat. If you want me to be your wali, know that I will lead with mercy and kindness. In a very gentle, loving way. That's how we should be. Accept your wilayat. It's your wilayat, no doubt. But lead with gentle and kindness and compassion, etc., etc. Some confusion here? Got really quiet and all of a sudden. Okay? You'll be surprised when I go see families and I'm sitting in the living room, it breaks my heart when the husband is on one side and you can physically see that the other family members are on the other side of the room altogether. The wife and the kids are on the other couch, and the kid, 16, 17 years old, he's so fed up with his dictator of a father, he says to me, Maulana, this man, look at how he talks now, this man beside you is well respected inside your center. Pious man. But he is a corrupt man inside of our home. He thinks that what? We are his slaves. It's not the role that we have to have. You had your hand up? Yeah.
Yeah, involving the etiquette of prayer. So it doesn't matter what age, as long as you are the kids of the mother and father. That this is how it's supposed to be.
What do you mean by that? Sorry?
For example, if you had the parents, right, and then there's a 20-year-old who is considered the kid, where would he still be?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The idea here is that this is a rooftop view, right? So the man and the woman are at one level, the man is slightly above because he's a wali, and the kids are now being led by these two together. Okay? 1 year I'm going to read an usher in Toronto on anger management in Islam. 10 majalis on anger management in Islam. Go ahead. I'm waiting for you, yes.
Okay. Just wanted to point out, I mean, the way we're supposed to stand in prayers, supposed to come naturally to us, right? Between how men and women should stand, right? Regardless of husband and wife, like if a man is praying, or someone else is praying. But I think Me Too thing is pulling that down very badly.
So this is precisely for a husband and a wife who's mahram. It's not for a community.
No, yeah, about that, but like the equality that is being taught.
Yeah, so this is not equality.
Yeah.
Equality would be the fact that I would do this, man and woman. And this is not a jamaat.
Yeah.
The man is a little bit ahead of the woman.
But it's the women who's asking for equality, right?
Yeah, well, that's a different discussion, right? Yeah. They should understand that equality in Islam exists at the soul level, not at the body level. Yeah. At the body level, justice exists, not equality.
No, because for
yes, yeah, it's good, sir. Yes,
right?
yeah, I agree. That's why I talked about the fact that the wali of the house, the leader of the house, are the husbands and the fathers. And believe me, women want to be led. If it means that you're leading me towards good, I will let you lead. One of the biggest complaints I hear from our sisters is the fact that I am forced now to be the mother and the father of these kids. And she's not a single mom. Because my husband is, I'm sorry, the word they use is a deadbeat. Yes, he works 9 to 5, he pays the Enbridge bill, but that's it. Talking to the kids, parent-teacher meeting, Sunday school, for example, the center, for example, all these things are on my shoulders. And that's not the case. It's on our shoulders as men. Right? It's not about equality. Absolutely not. Sorry. Equality is at the soul level, where there's ajr and there's reward on the day of judgment. A man does act A woman does act A. The exact same niyat is, the Quran says, ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنْثَى, a man or a woman, they'll both get ajrun kabir. But when it comes to huquq in this dunya, it's based on the fitrat of the insan, and that's what justice is. Asking a man to do a woman's job and vice versa is not justice. In fact, it's dhulm, it's oppression. Because you're not programmed to do a woman's job, she's not programmed to do a man's job. Right? Justice is that Allah will ask you what you can do, and ask her what she can do. Chaos ensues when the paths are all mixed up. And that's what Me Too and this society is trying to do, is to mend the path into one. No. The sun has its path, the moon has its path. The man has his path, the woman has her path. Embrace the path. Right? Don't worry about anyone else's path. Okay? So humility is the idea that when we lead our families, to lead our families with not an iron fist, with a loving hand. Number 4. Seeking advice. We live in an era today where it has to sometimes be the idea that we are raising our kids, or we are married by, it takes a village, they say, to raise a kid nowadays. I don't know why there's so much ego sometimes, especially in our Indo-Pak communities. And the idea that, if you're struggling to raise your kids, your teenage boys give you a hard time, your teenage girl is giving you a hard time, and you know there are other families who have gone through the exact same thing, why don't we pick up the phone and say, what did you do with your daughter? How can I be able to help my daughter get through this problem? I get phone calls all the time, but I get the phone calls at the edge of a cliff, when things are literally to the point of no return. Where he says to his mom and dad, I'm going to marry her regardless. Whether you're there or not, the nikah, it will be done. And then they call someone like me. Can you come in? I can't. At that moment, I can't convince him. And when I asked them, why didn't you call me earlier? I didn't want you to think I was a bad father or a bad mother. You have to stop that. We have to now let go of that. Understand that we live in a very difficult time. Raising a child today is a very difficult time. We're very blessed to be in Toronto, in the GTA. If you travel anywhere up and down North America, you know that what we have here in GTA is huge. From the schools, to the communities, to the centers. Yes, we have our issues, we have our problems, no doubt, but the amount of stuff being done for kids in this city, there's nowhere else, trust me, in North America. People are leaving the US. Climates like Orlando and Miami and California, coming to this cold climate just for their kids. Because there's nothing in their city. But it still takes a village to raise kids. Seek advice of others. It doesn't make you a horrible parent. In fact, it's the opposite. It makes you a great parent. To swallow your pride, to look, I need help with my 14-year-old son. He's rebelling against me. He started smoking, for example. My 7-year-old daughter took her hijab off, for example. What do I do? How do I do it? Can you please help me? There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes our ego gets in the way, especially as basis for some reason. We think, oh no, I have things under control. We want to make sure that, everything is fine. My family is great. Meanwhile, it's not great. Seeking advice, Imam Salih says, is very, very important. It's one thing that a lot of our youth don't do today. I see kids today, 15, 17, 18, they keep falling on their face, falling on their face. Baba, you can avoid all that. Just pick up the phone and say, look, you're 31, you're 34, you're 41. You've been through what I've been through. You were born and raised in this city. Right? Right now I'm going through university. It's very difficult. What do I do? They don't do that. They think, I got to figure it out. I'm good. I know what I'm doing. I'm smart. And this ego, this ghurur comes in. He says, no, a strong family is one that seeks the advice, not only outside, but within each other. The 777 hadith. Very famously, of our 6th Imam, Imam Jaffri Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. And while I don't have time to go through all 7, the last 7, when the kid's 14 plus, that's when the Imam says he is now or she is now, your what? Your advisor. Your advisor. Your advisor. 14 years old, bacha hai Maulana. No, he's not a bacha, Maulana. Allah says, now he is baligh. She's baligha. She's actually responsible for her actions. So how do you do it? I'll give you a very simple example. A very simple, practical example. You and your wife, let's say, for example, are planning a vacation or planning a trip to Pakistan or India, wherever you want to go back home. Okay? And you have a meeting, you and your wife, about dates, about flights, about vacations. If you have that discussion, include your 14-year-old in that discussion. And make sure he or she knows that, look, your other siblings who are 7 or 8, they're not in this conversation. It's me, it's you, it's your mother. Now you're an adult inside this house. Once you identify the dates, assign a role to him. Say, look, Baba, go on Emirates.com, find us a good flight for this state. This is your where we want to fly out of. This is where we want to return. And you watch the kid. In a second, he'll come back with 3 options. He'll build an app for you. Say, look, Baba, here's an app for you in one day. Very smart kids nowadays. But the more we push them down, the more this idea that I'm not heard inside of my house. Tomorrow, inshallah, we'll talk about kids. But here, understanding that these are kids that are worthy of asking advice from. On the flip side, to my youth in the audience, very carefully, please. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So I'll tell you my story I often tell, okay? I lost my father when I was 28 years old, okay? He came home from Thursday night after at Al-Mehdi. Within half an hour, he just dropped in front of us, and he was gone. Very healthy man, 52 years old, big, strong man, healthy, treadmill every single night. Allah's will, that's fine. The thing that still breaks my heart, it's been 17 years since he passed away, is the fact that I was really late in my life understanding that my father was a wealth of wisdom for me. For the longest time, I thought that my father, typical Karachi back home father, okay, his English it was great English, but it had an accent to it. How does he know what I'm going through? He has no idea what I'm going through. So I went through high school without ever asking him anything. I went through university without ever asking him anything. And then when I was really confused about a job situation, I actually asked him, Dad, this is what situation, and the advice he gave me blew me away. It blew me away. He may not speak English like I did, but he's traveled the world. He picked up his family from Karachi and landed in Toronto in the 70s. No culture, no language, dealing with white guys, it was very hard. Doing what you and I, as youth, could never do. Okay, imagine if somebody asked you to pick up your life and go to Japan, let's say, and settle up. You would never do it. Forget Japan, you wouldn't go to Edmonton, or Calgary, or Winnipeg, or Yellowknife, and set up shop. You won't do it. Within the same country, same language, same culture. These guys, a lot of my elders, jumped overseas. Just landed. Peek it, buddy, we're here. On any job they could, 7 days a week. Driving a taxi, doing security, flea market stalls, whatever it was so you and I could have a better life. Anyways. And by the time I was able to understand that this man was incredible, like he's seen the world. And he gave me advice that was life-changing, in 2 years he was gone. And I made so many mistakes in my high school life, so many mistakes in my university life that I could have avoided if I tapped into that resource, if I sought his advice. Everything from what major to take, to my friends, to how to kick a habit, to how to create good habits, everything. Sometimes my youth out there, you guys think that your parents have no clue what's going on. Don't make the mistake I made. If you're confused about what to, and you're bound to be confused, one of the biggest resources you have of help and assistance is right there inside your home. It literally is. To realize the hardest way that there's nobody else that is more obsessed with my success except for my parents. Your boys, your friends can sit there and claim, yeah, I got you, I'm your bro, this and that, ride together, die together. All that stuff. At the end of the day, the one who has your back the most are your parents, nobody else. It's a matter of you tapping into that resource. So in a marriage, in a family, it's both ways. We're seeking advice of our 14, 15-year-old to make him feel like he belongs, or she belongs. At the same time, if you're 18, 19, confused about life, you're bound to be confused. We're going to go back and seek advice from our parents as well. Yes?
When you are telling the youngsters that they should seek advice,
yes.
But isn't it, responsibility of the parents to create that environment
yes.
in the house?
Because absolutely.
If we create barriers, like, we tell them that, no, this is the way you have to do it,
yeah.
and,
So yes, I mean, obviously I'm talking to the kids on their side, but obviously, yes, we have to have that door open and be a little bit more accommodating. We can't have that kind of iron fist as parents, my way or the highway. No. But it is the idea that I want, even if you think that the way these kids are very sensitive nowadays, right? We live in a very, very sensitive time, right? The millennials of today, 15 to 30, they're very hassas. Very hassas. If I say something to them that they don't like, they will never talk to me again. Right? Sometimes I deal with youth groups all over North America. If I say, look, you should have done this program this way, they'll get so disheartened in 1 second. So while I agree with the fact that sometimes the parents have to kind of soften their tone, it's also the kids have to man up sometimes and say, look, it's okay if my dad says, look, this is what you should do. If he's adamant or she's adamant as the mother, there's reasons behind it. But my point is that don't look beyond your parents for a source of wisdom and advice. Okay, I made that mistake and I fell so many times, and I could have avoided all those scars if I didn't look at my dad as a typical Karachi immigrant man. Who pronounces certain words weird as opposed to how it should be. I was just stuck on these small, ignorant things. Inside there was a wealth of wisdom. Okay? Number 5. Compassion. Oh, compassion. Verbal emotion plus action. Those who were there on Saturday night at JCC for my Shabadari Majlis, I talked about mawaddat. I talked about the idea of what mawadda is. And mawadda in the Quran is not mahabbat. And the one ingredient of the two that the Quran says that Allah says we had placed, meaning I placed that between a husband and a wife, is mawaddatun wa rahmah. Mawaddat and rahmah, mercy and mawaddat. What is mawaddat? Very quickly, I have right now 5 minutes left. Mawaddat is not this verbal expression of honey, I love you. Honey, I love you. Honey, I love you. Meanwhile, she gives you a list of things to do, and you've done 0. She's asking you to be more patient, 0. Stop yelling at the kids, 0. Spend more time with my family, 0. Lose 15 pounds, 0. Come with me to Hajj, 0. But honey, I love you. Eventually she'll say, take your love and give it to your mom, don't give it to me. She wants the verbal expression. With what? With you spending more time with her family, with you going to Hajj with her, with you losing 15 pounds, with you watching your tongue, with you being more patient. Then now that verbal expression is a lot more stronger when it's attached with action. Right? The only other time that mawaddat comes in the Quran, when the Prophet asks for that ajr, that all of you know. La as'alukum alayhi ajran illa al-mawaddata fil qurba. I don't want a reward from you, the Prophet says, but I want you to have mawaddat for my family. I want you to have mawaddat for my family. You say your Ya Husseins, you say your Ajil Farajahums, you say your Nada Hedris, but back it up with action. It's not just a verbal expression of admiration. I love Hussein, I love Ali, I love Jawad, I love all these alayhim, I love all of them, but they will ask you if you loved me, you would follow my words. Right? You would be like me. When the 6th Imam says that if you are our Shi'as, you have 2 choices. You can be an embarrassment for us, God forbid, or you can be a sense of pride for us. Where someone looks at you and says, if this is a follower, imagine how great the actual Imam is. Right? Compassion is the idea of us asking ourselves, what is the language of love of the person in front of me? Please follow me very carefully. If it's okay with you, I'll go to 9:10. Is that okay? Yeah? If you agree, one last salat ala Muhammad wa Muhammad. When you love somebody, there's a language of love. The language of love is that how does that person want to be loved? I can't tell God, God, I love you, but I'm going to worship you the way I want to worship you. So I'll skip Fajr, I'll pray Zohar. I'll skip Asr, I'll pray Maghrib. I'll skip Isha. But I love you, God. In Ramadan, I will fast the 1st, the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, the 9th of Ramadan. But God, I love you. I'll give you, 15%, not 20%. It's a lot, 20%. But God, I accept you and I love you. If you loved me, he says, my language of love is 5 times a day, 30 days in Ramadan, and 20%. That's my language of love. Where there's a lover and a beloved. You're the lover, your wife is the beloved. Or you're the lover, your husband is the beloved. The lover has to know the beloved's language of love, not the other way around. Ask yourself, what is it that my wife or my husband wants from me? Small things, small things. For example, she walks home, let's say after a long day, she comes home and the front closet is clean, for example. The bed is made. The kitchen is spotless. The carpet is vacuumed. And you're sitting there like a farishta with a halo on his head saying, nice house, right? And she'll do what? She'll blush. She'll love you. Now that's when you say, honey, I love you. That's when the love comes in. And that's when she'll accept that word. Because her language of love is, I want you to help around the house. The language of love is, I want you to sit there and talk to me at the end of the day. The language of love is, when I go to my mom's, I want you to come with me. That's my language of love. You can't dictate to me how you want to love me. I'm telling you how I want you to love me. Right? So compassion is the idea of loving somebody the way they want to be loved. Not the way I want them to be loved by me. Okay? Was there a hand up here somewhere? No? Okay. Number 6. Let's go quickly. 6 and 7 are actually together. So 6 and 7 is adl and justice and fairness. Okay? Adl and insaf. So 7 principles of a successful family given to us by Imam Sadiq is forbearance and forgiveness, is humility and is compassion, seeking advice, justice and fairness. These 7 should exist in every single family. Okay? Tonight I will also work with you, examine and ask yourself which of the 7, if not all 7, exist in my home, which does not, and start from tonight. And you as the husband, we as the husband are leading the way. We're not saying on the way home, honey, of the 7, which one are we, which one aren't we? No, you guys should know, man. Which one? Don't ask her, Bachali. What does she know? Don't put that on her. Say, I will make sure all 7 exist inside of the family. It's my job, sorry. I'm the wali, I'm the leader, I'm not going to put that on you. Okay? Justice and fairness is the idea, as you know, is to be just inside the home. To expect from her what she can give you. All of you know this, and I don't mean to upset anybody here or cause problems inside the home. But ultimately, outside the home and inside the home, the responsibility is ours as husbands and fathers. It's not wajib on her to make you a cup of tea. It's not wajib on her to cook or clean. If she does it out of love, that's her love. And she'll do it out of love. But to expect it and then to get upset when it's not done is the idea of you not being fair to her. The reality is if you don't like a dirty house, then clean it yourself. If you don't want the same dal every single day, then cook your chicken yourself. Sorry. If you want your plates a certain way, then put the plates a certain way. She is only asked to do 1 or 2 things that are wajib on her. Everything else is on us. I'm sorry. The way Islam now has prepared the family structure, she is the queen and we are the ones who are now serving the family as husbands. Not the other way around. Again, I don't want to create a bad ride home tonight. But I do want all of us to realize that a lot of our women are drowning under the pressure because they weren't programmed to handle the amount they're handling right now. A lot of them, slowly but surely depressed, anxiety, stress, medication, quietly suffering. I had one couple in this very GTA Toronto, years ago, came to me, and they must have been in their 60s. In their 60s. And their last son of 4 had gotten married 3 months before in the summertime. Married a Rukhsat out of the house. And since these two now, 6 fighters inside the house by themselves. And they called me and they said that we want you to come and recite our divorce. I said, Uncle, you're 65, 67 years old? I said, no. As long as there was kids in the house, that's fine. But the idea of me living with this woman, without there being no filter of kids, I can't bardash for one day. And vice versa. And they got a divorce. 68 years old. Can you imagine how much quiet suffering happened in that marriage? Waiting for the day that the last child gets married, out of the house. Now I'm free, I'm Fadik, as you say in Urdu. Now I also want to be Asad. So, khulafis to you, and I'll move on as well. That's a reality. A lot of our women are suffering and they're quiet because they don't want to break up the home. It's up to us as men now to revive that happiness inside their home. I'm sorry. Yes, a lot of the onus is on us. We have to accept that. Islam has placed that on us. I get phone calls from women who are physically abused inside their home. There's bruises up and down their body. And they sit there and they tell me with himmat now, because they're angry, right? They sit there and they tell me, your Islam, Malana, your Islam gave the right to my husband to beat me black and blue. Your Islam did. I have no response sometimes. Because her version of Islam is based on the actions of her husband. So these are 7 that I want all of us, including myself, to work on. If you are somebody, mashallah, as a family, and some are, who gain strength with hardship, that's great. If you have an issue where you can't forgive your spouse, work on that. Know that you're also at fault. You're also begging Allah for forgiveness. Humility is the idea that we're going to lead inside the home as husbands and fathers with a soft and merciful hand, adopting the sidat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Seeking advice either from the parent or from the child or each other. Compassion, of course, the idea of verbal and action, right? We're going to sweep the kitchen and say, honey, I love you. and then asking and expecting from them what they can give us and nothing more. Okay? That's our class today. 9:08. I'm sorry. Any questions? I'm sure there's several. Oh yes, from there it's going to be a lot. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Any questions on the spot? So you your hand up. I'm sorry. Right? I'm so sorry. I should have asked you right there. Are you sure? Okay. Yeah. So I didn't talk about in-laws. Obviously, Hadith says that we have, because I thought if I talked about in-laws, you won't come tomorrow. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. I'm hammering on the men tonight, but Hadith says that we have 3 sets of parents. When I say we, I mean men and women. Your biological parents, your teachers are your parents, and the parents of your spouse are your parents. Okay? So if you're expecting her now to move into your house and be good with her sauce, and her nund, and her sister-in-law, and her mother-in-law, then you as a husband should also be good with her mother and her sisters as well. That's obvious, I think. Yeah, they're looking for a surah or a dua. Sometimes, that kind of quick fix isn't there. I talked about the hadith to ensure that inside of a house there's Quran being read, the dhikr of Ali Muhammad and of Allah being done. That acts as a force field against the bala, against shaitan for sure. Right? Ensuring peace and happiness continues when there is conflicting personalities between parents and grandparents. Love is there, but lack of time. Demanding grandparents and kids. Yeah, it's a balancing act, no doubt. But there is no short fix, no ta'weez, no dua, no surah. There is work involved. Right? The reason why the ulama don't like istikharas when it comes to weddings is that istikhara doesn't guarantee you, a perfect marriage. We had one alim that told me that the same couple that asked me for istikhara, I saw the istikhara, a year later they came back for a divorce. And they said, you were the same alim that... Come on, man.
Change the alim at least.
Yeah, change the alim at least, right? Don't go back to the same alim. If there are baligh children at home, would they still stand behind their mother? Yes, they would. Assuming, of course, you can have your baligh son here, you can have your wife here, that's fine. But the idea here behind this idea is that this is a snapshot of how the family should be led. So, the last question talks about the fact that, even if someone knows everything, they still aren't doing it. What can we do? All we can do is tell people this is what should be done. Okay? Remember, there's a solution for every problem in Islam. If you have a behavioral problem, anger, patience, I don't know, if for some reason you're bored at home, or some reason, whatever the case may be, there are always solutions for that. For the sake of your family, seek those solutions, inshallah. Okay? Any questions before we end? From this audience? Yes, go ahead.
You've been very gender neutral this time today in your.
Really, I thought I was hammering the men a lot.
No, you were pretty. I noticed that you were gender neutral primarily, but most of the time when we're talking about, I'm asking this question because of where we live.
Please,
right now.
please.
When we talk, when we looking at the entire situation, it looks like it's always the man who will be answered, who will need to answer eventually in the end. Yes. And women in our lives are basically an object of test as well. Seems that way. I can get it from the vilayat point that is coming on to us, but it looks like as if the primary onus is on us, which we are going to be tested about as men.
Right.
Is this...
So the question, just so I had a message from the sisters yesterday that sometimes we can't hear the questions from the brothers. What he's asking for is that it seems as if the onus of this wilayat is on us as men, and that there's more of a test on us than there is on them. Not the case. They'll also be asked, did you accept the wilayat of your husband or not? Did you understand that he is a person that should be followed, and that should be you should give him that freedom? There's so many ahadith that talk about a successful woman in the hereafter has these characteristics. They have their fair share of tests of the Day of Judgment. But ultimately we talk about a family unit, and if you want to grab the wheel, then you have to know where you're going. You can't be driving and have her tell you left here, right here, U-turn here. You have the wheel, you shouldn't have directions as well, right? So we have to step up our game as men. So yes, we will be asked. قُوا أَنفُسِكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ نَارًا. Safeguard your family, safeguard yourselves from the fire. We will be asked, I gave you a wife, I gave you a spouse, I gave you children. What did you do with that wife or children? Did you lead them towards Jannat or not? So, if you want to talk about onus and measuring onus, we have it a lot heavier than the women do. And unfortunately, in our culture, I think it's the opposite. They feel like, if the house is not going the way it should be, everything is on them. Because they're told that, Aura jo hai Jannat banati hai or Jahannam banati hai. Right? If the house is heaven, it's the wife. If the house is on fire, it's also the wife. And I'm sorry, in Islam, it's not the case. All of that resides on the man's shoulders. It's our job to make our home heavenly. It's our job to rescue that fire. Yes, thank you. Now you can ask your question. Asad.
Say that the younger sibling did something. The parent is that the younger sibling, but then he also gets mad at the older sibling.
Yeah, I know, the zulm, right? So younger sibling does something wrong, but the older sibling gets the chappal as well, right? Big problems, man, big problems. I know. Sometimes, parents understand that the older ones understand faster. So sometimes, between you and me as a secret, us, them, and this camera, between you and me a secret, that they actually use the older ones to teach the younger ones a lesson. They know that the older ones know that, look, this is younger now, he's 5 years old, he's your brother, he won't understand. Mashallah, you're old now, you're 9, you're 12, right? Your sister's 9, how old are you? 11, you're a big man now, mashallah. Right? So you're 11 and she's 9, right? There's a big difference, right? So sometimes your parents want to teach the 9-year-old, the best way to do it is through hijab. And I know it sucks sometimes, but that's the price of being, the eldest, the shahzada inside the house, right? But sometimes through you, parents will teach the younger ones. So take it as the fact that, okay, I'm helping my dad teach my younger one. That's it. That's a great question. I love that question. Anything else? Yes.
We're talking again quite a lot about how it's men's responsibility to to leave the house and so on and so forth. But there's a little bit of a confusion in our community with regards to the religious duty which men may feel that they have to do in order to better themselves, or women might feel that they have to do their religious duty more than listen to each other in order to solve each other's problems.
You're talking in code right now.
I am.
Yeah. I can't break the code. Can you? Is your wife here? Is that what you're talking in code? Oh, okay.
You can say anything.
Let's say I have a friend who has a wife who does this. Sorry, so can you give me a little more details?
Okay, so to be specific, let's just say in terms of some of the majalis that go on for 2 months and 10 days in our community.
Okay.
And the men go to majlis from 11 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night.
The men do or the women do?
I'm just going to say men do.
Okay.
You can take it wherever you
want. He's a very smart man. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Right? And then the woman, the wife in the house is unhappy because the man is out of the house Saturday and Sunday.
Sure.
Vice versa. It could be the lady is going from 11 to coming home at 8 o'clock at night.
Okay.
So I think when that happens, if the wife says, you should spend more time at home, or the husband says you should spend more time at home, then the religious aspect of
You're stopping me from Asad.
Exactly.
Okay. So the question he's asking is that, the example he gave was that, sometimes, let's say the husband leaves at 11 a.m., comes back at 8 p.m., and he's done 3 or 4 madrasas in one day, which no man ever does. But if we do one, then we're done, right? And he says, he's very fair. The opposite is also true, that the woman leaves at 10 a.m. and is back at 10 p.m. And let's say one spouse complains that I need you home more, and the other spouse says, well, you're stopping me from Azadari the mom. Okay, right. So I think that, number one, this only happens for the first 10 days, and then after that for every weekend, probably. I don't think the 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. happens after Ashura during the week. Okay, I live in the East, and like there's what I call as much as my mom used to announce to the whole family, "Mujhe jo hai 2 mahine ke liye bhul jao. I'm gone." Right? You feed yourself, you look after yourself. I don't care. Right? Me and Imam Hussein. Okay. So we have to understand that sometimes that's all that they have in terms of their spirituality. That's where they feel like they're giving back to the deen by doing as much as they can. I even asked my mom one time. I go, you've been to 8 majlises. You have arthritis in your knee. You come home and you're hobbling and you're in pain. Like, do you think that Imam Hussein would be upset if you skipped one majlis? And she got really mad at me. She said, don't stop me. This is what's keeping me alive. Okay? So, it's very hard for me to sit there and tell you that you should make sure that, yes, at the same time, I agree that sometimes we live in an imbalanced life. That sometimes if things at home require our attention, that maybe, skipping the 4 p.m. majlis, wouldn't be so blasphemous. Making sure that things are okay at home. If your husband needs your help, or let's say your wife needs your help because your husband is gone for your 4 months a day, then it's important that we do live a balance. And sometimes, and I don't want to say this, but sometimes when it comes to Azadari, we are a little bit more worried about quantity than quality. Agreed. But I think that sometimes that's what their lifeline is. Let's give them that. It's okay. It's a matter of 2 months. Even though in that 2 months, it's just the weekends, right? So, but if you have enough of a communication with her to say, look, you know what, instead of 6, go to 5, that 6th one, maybe you can stay home with me and the kids, then she should be able to accommodate that, inshallah. It's a good point. It's a good point. Yes?
So the structure you've been discussing today, did that assume that the woman will not work?
No. I don't. Does this affect a woman working? How so? Yeah. So the question that he's asking to my sisters is that the structure that I present here, is it under the assumption that the woman is at home and not working? So can you elaborate? What do you mean by that?
So, it's just
unrealistic.
Yeah.
Is it?
But
whereabouts unrealistic?
I should not use the word.
No, it's okay. You can. It's okay.
But in a world, especially here, where
sure.
there's a lot of focus on equity pay, and
sure.
women are doing much better.
Sure.
Than 50 years ago.
Yeah.
So there could be instances where a woman is making more money than the man.
Okay.
Right? So how does that change the structure?
So where here do we talk about pay? Sorry, I keep doing that to him. Sorry. Like how does, let's say for example, if you like he talked about the fact, for my sister, he talked about the fact that what happens if the woman makes more money than the male? How does that change these 7 principles? Where are these 7 being affected by somebody's salary?
Some of it does become unrealistic.
Okay. To give me an example, like
so
what's number?
Say for example, the woman is a CEO somewhere.
CEO somewhere.
The guy is like.
So I am the wali now because I am making more money.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it is.
I'm just what I understand from him.
Seeking advice, or so say for example, the direction that you in
sure.
your model
sure.
that you were saying today, you expect from a man.
Sure.
It automatically would shift.
Just based on pay?
Based on the success.
Okay. So what he's saying is, that's a great point. What he's saying is that the entire power structure of the house changes when the wife makes more money than the man. Because, like you had mentioned, sometimes the wife says that you want me to listen to you, but I'm making more money than you are.
I'm making the calls basically. I'm running the.
I'm wearing the pants.
You wear the pants.
Yes.
Right. So if that's the behavior of the woman because she's making more money than the man, then to me that's disgusting behavior. That does not change the power structure at all. This is not based on pay. It's based on fitrat. It's based on how God created us. Right? God created us to lead as men. Okay? God didn't create the woman to carry the burden of leadership. Leadership is not it's not a blessing, it's a burden, remember that. And that burden Allah wants on our shoulders. So she should be willing to still give you that burden to lead, even if she brings home, let's say, 10% more than you do. You're right, I've seen it. And I've also seen the Asad Comfort inside of a man as well, yes, exactly. Right? That, and then, once in a while that tana that she does to you, that, I'm making more money. Hopefully that's not the case. And I oftentimes tell the wife, don't emasculate your husband by doing that. Okay? Islam does not recognize pay to have any sort of power. If there is any power, it's in piety. That may sound realistic, unrealistic, but on the ground it's something else, but that's what we need to change. So maybe the one thing I believe with the sisters is that if you are a wife in this audience right now who makes more money than your husband, then please ensure that you don't use that as a means to get what you want inside the house. That's behavior that God does not like, and that you will be held accountable for it. I get it happens, but hopefully I just want them to know that you will be asked on the day of judgment that did you do this to your husband. Any woman that emasculates her husband, makes him feel like he's a child in front of her, will be asked very harshly on the day of judgment.
So
go ahead.
This model is independent of
yes.
either spouse.
Absolutely, it's a great question.
Or not,
yeah, right? This model is completely reliant on the fitrat of the human being, innate nature of the human being. A woman was built with a certain innate nature. A man was built with certain innate nature. Chaos right now, the Me Too movement, all that happens when those roles are switched or those roles are merged into one path. Right? So I can do what a man does, but better, for example. Right? So I'll look like a man, I'll have a short hair, I'll wear a suit, all that kind of stuff, just so I can show him that I can also do what you do. Right? So that's independent of this structure. Go ahead.
But still, I want to we shouldn't be stopping. Like if there is a woman and my daughter or my wife or my sister, if they have talent and they want to acquire more knowledge, more education, that they want to do a job, it's not stopping them.
No, of course not. That's not what I'm saying. So there's no way that I'm telling you if you have a daughter or a wife, let's say, who's talented, who has a dream to be an author or a dream to run her own business, and now, alhamdulillah, she sacrificed enough so you can build your career. The best thing you could do is say, you know what, it's now your time. I will support you financially, morally, for you to now chase your dream and be a published author, or begin to paint, or begin to run your own business from home. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that in Islam. Islam does not say the woman has to stay at home. But where there is a chance for them to survive on one salary and raise their proper pious kids, then maybe that's one thing that they should consider. Because the tarbiyat that a mother can give is nothing compared to a father.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's just the reality of it. And Islam recognizes that. The mother is 3 times higher than the father is. Blatantly in hadith. And there's reasons for that. Good discussion, guys. Thank you. Yes?
So we're on the topic of family. I'm giving a personal example. Me and my wife, we got married 2 years ago.
2 years ago, but chill, yeah. Yeah.
So,
that's why he's so happy with it. Okay, he's glowing, he's smiling.
I hope he's not complaining.
No complaints from between me and my wife. But when family, there's a pressure from family for starting a family.
Yes.
Right. So just dealing with that and parents just pressurizing me, my wife
to have a kid.
Yes.
Yeah. So pressures from outside influences for you as a young couple to start your family, blah blah blah. Yeah, it happens. I think it comes from a very supportive place. I think that what they want is that they want you to have kids at a young age so you can grow old with them. Right? Like I wish I had my kids 5 years younger. I'm in my 40s, my kid is 4. Right? I wish that I could play baseball with them without hurting my knees, for example. Right? Right? So it comes from a very nice and yeah, sometimes they're a little bit intrusive. Like they'll offer medical advice and stuff, right? Which is really intrusive. Really, they do. But there's no masla. I just don't want a kid right now. I'm good. I'm functioning very well. I just don't want a kid right now. They do that. But that comes from a very loving environment. Except that it's okay that they're Brazil. That's what they do, right? You can't close that door.
It's a point number 4, advice basically.
Sorry?
They are offering advice, not
Yeah. They're offering. Yeah. This is when you seek, but they're offering without even you seeking. That's the problem.
It's not advice.
It's not advice? Yeah. It comes from a good place. Last question, anybody? Yes. Oh, you went from here to here, mashallah. I didn't even see that. Yes. Yeah.
You didn't see his hand.
I didn't see his hand. Oh, okay, yes. Go ahead.
Is it okay to put pressure on the oldest kid to make him the role model?
Come on.
Javed, what? Are you okay with it? Is it okay to put pressure on the oldest kid to be the role model for the other kids? I think that sometimes what we see as pressure is our parents see as potential. So meaning that sometimes we don't know how good we are until our parents show us how good we are. Or we don't know how much we can do until our parents show us that we can do this, right? And sometimes, yes, it's called tough love. That they'll say, look, do it, and then at the end, you'll end up becoming a smarter and stronger kid at the end of the day. So I don't think it's like force, but I don't see it as force, but they want to, you're 11, mashallah, you'll be a teenager in 2 years, and then they want you to have those skills from now to be able to be a good, strong man, inshallah. Okay? Anything else? Are you sure? You can come see me afterward privately, inshallah. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to inshallah accept our qaleel ibadat, inshallah, and whatever is discussed on these sessions, that we use it to be better servants of you, Allah, better husbands, better mothers, better wives, better fathers, inshallah, and better muntazareen of Imam al-Zamana, inshallah. All this is to allow ourselves to prepare for the arrival of our hujjat, inshallah. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.